Hello! So today I'm going to be talking about the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murakami. Well over a year ago, I picked 4 books to introduce myself to Haruki Murakami because I'd never read any of his work before. Those were 1Q84, Norwegian Wood, and Kafka on the Shore, and obviously the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. So this is the last book left on my introduction to Murakami. Out of the 3 other books that I mentioned, Kafka on the Shore is without a doubt my absolute favourite, but let's see where this one ranks up at the end of this video. So what's it about? Well, it is a mind-bending, weird and utterly surreal journey through the human mind. We follow Toru, whose quiet life is absolutely shattered when his cat goes missing. Toru is out of work and quite enjoying just living at home and cooking the meals and looking after the house while his wife goes out to work. But then, not soon after his cat disappears, his wife disappears. The disappearance of not just his cat but also his wife leads him on this surreal journey that uncovers hidden secrets and truths about himself but also about the world around him. This novel has all of the typical Murakami tropes. We have magical realism, a kind of mystery at the heart of everything that's happening to our protagonist, and also some historical fiction giving us a bit of an idea of the history of Japan. Like always, Murakami is giving us a narrative that blurs the lines between reality and fantasy. As Toru dives deep into the mysteries surrounding him and they keep piling up and up and up as things get weirder and weirder and weirder, we meet a very colourful and eccentric cast of characters. Oh, I love the characters in this one. We have Kimiko, Toru's wife, who becomes increasingly distant and mysterious as the novel progresses. Her disappearance adds another layer of mystery to Toru's quest, prompting him to delve deeper into the secrets of his own past and their relationship. We then have Noboru, Kimiko's brother, an absolute dickhead and a prominent political figure and intellectual. Toru absolutely hates Noboru, and Noboru has somewhat of a questionable past with his sister. We have Mei, a character you're either going to find extremely irritating or you're going to find incredibly endearing. She's a teenage girl who befriends Toru and provides him with sort of emotional support during his search for his missing cat. Mei also has somewhat of a troubled past, and her interactions with Toru offer insight into the themes of loneliness and connection throughout the novel. We then have Malta, a psychic and former prostitute who helps Toru find his missing cat. Malta possesses mysterious abilities and knowledge that she shares with Toru, although her motivations and intentions remain ambiguous throughout the novel. We then have Kreta, Malta's sister, who becomes romantically involved with Toru. Kreta's presence adds another layer of sort of complexity of Toru's relationships and his sort of search for meaning in the midst of all the chaos happening around him. We then have Lieutenant Mamiya, a war veteran who shares his absolutely harrowing experiences from World War II with Toru. Lieutenant Mamiya's stories serve as a sort of catalyst for Toru's journey of self-discovery and provide an insight into the themes of trauma and the cyclical nature of history. I would say definite kind of content warnings for his sections. His depictions of war are pretty brutal, but I found his stories he was telling and the way they were told just brilliant. We then have Nutmeg and Cinnamon, who are both extremely intriguing and very quirky characters who sort of bring this depth to the story quite later on. I'm not going to say too much about them for kind of spoilers. Each character Toru meets gets a rich and detailed backstory, to the point in which this novel is actually pretty much just a book of short stories. Each character that Toru meets challenges his perception of himself, of the world around him, but they are also forcing him to confront some of his deepest fears. Ultimately, this novel is an exploration of identity, memory, loss, lost things and the things that we lose, and the interconnectedness of all things. Coming in at around 600 pages, this novel is epic and vast, and there are so many characters within it. I truly believe that as a reader, you will get something different from this book depending on your age and what sort of part of your journey you are on. Out of all the Haruki Murakami novels I have read so far, this is the only one I'm actively probably going to reread again, just because of how vast it is and how different his relationship is with each character and what they bring to the table. I do feel like depending on how I've changed as a human being, I'm going to get something different from this novel. And I haven't really felt that from any of the other novels that he's written. This is the only one that feels like it has something within it, a kind of philosophy, a sort of musing on the world and reality that is gonna change as I change as a person. And I'm gonna get something different from this book each time. So yeah, it's definitely got that in its favour. I'm going to leave that there as far as what this book is about is concerned. I haven't even scratched the surface. I haven't even scratched 5% of what this novel is about, really. It is vast, it is epic, there is a lot that happens, it gets really weird and surreal. In some moments it sort of pushes it so far you have no clue what's going on, and then things just sort of click and it kind of, things start to make sense, and then it does another turn and you have no idea, and then new characters are introduced and you're like, what is going on? This is insane, but in a really, really great way. But I'm not that kind of channel, I'm not that kind of reviewer. I'm not going to take you through every single plot beat of what happens within this novel. I've sort of given you an idea of the characters and sort of kind of what's happening, but really I haven't even scratched the surface. There might be other channels for you to sort of go to kind of a bit more of a better idea of what this novel is all about, and also of what it all means. So what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked, I absolutely adored the blend between reality and fantasy that is taking place within this novel. Murakami just weaves the layered narratives of the different characters and how it progresses through Toru's sort of like exploration of the mysteries around him. I just thought it was layered so well. It is 600 pages long and I just flew through this. Now, there are sections that I thought dragged, and I will get into that in my negatives, but overall, just, yeah, the way the narrative is layered, the way it builds, I thought was done really well. I absolutely loved all of the characters in this one. They're quirky, they're a little bit odd, they're weird, and they all have their own complexities. They're sort of written in a way that is kind of like larger than life, that is almost fantastical, yet their problems and their experiences and the things that they've been through are utterly, utterly human. There was just, again, an incredible sort of blend taking place within them that made them immensely readable, really intriguing, quirky, funny. I loved them, I fell in love with them, but at the same time, their experiences and what they were talking about just really resonated. Again, really good. I really loved the themes based within this novel, that idea of identity and of the things we have lost and what loss and lost things really mean to us, and should we care about finding them. I really enjoyed its sort of exploration of what it means to live in reality. It just made me question a few things, not in a massively deep way, but just in a way that made me stop and just take a moment and have a little think. And yeah, I thought the themes were handled really well within this sort of vast, epic, weird, crazy ride we go on. And the last thing that I loved, and it's been the same thing that I've loved in every single one of Murakami's novels, is that his prose is just buttery smooth. The way that he writes, it flows so beautifully well. Now, even though I have had issues with pacing in a few of his novels, there have been moments or things that have sort of like just dragged things back a little bit for me. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm not enjoying the process of reading it. That doesn't mean that I'm not absolutely lapping up every single sentence that he writes, because it all flows so beautifully. It's normally just from a sort of narrative perspective that I feel things have gotten a little bit sluggish. But yeah, his prose is, I love 10 out of 10. I love his prose. You might not, I don't know, I haven't met anyone yet who seems to think his prose is awful, but it must just be for me, because it just, I can sink into it, I can get lost in it so easily. What didn't I like? It's just a couple of things really. Now, number one, I've already mentioned this a few times, but the pacing in this one isn't as solid as I would say like something like Kafka on the Shore, and even Kafka on the Shore had a couple of moments where I thought it slowed down a little bit. I think the cinnamon and nutmeg sections of this novel, the characters cinnamon and nutmeg, they come into this novel quite late in. I can't quite remember, maybe it's a halfway point, if not a little bit past that. And they come in, but they also come in with these really detailed backstories. And on the trajectory that Toru was on, I felt like it just really slowed everything down. Now, I absolutely understand their place in the novel. Their place in the novel is this, where it sort of takes a turn, you know, and things get a little bit weirder and a little bit darker. And the backstories and the stories they're telling about themselves are absolutely crucial to what's happening to Toru and what we are going through as a reader. I am not saying that they would need to get rid of them at all, but they come so late, and then they come with such huge backstories that, yeah, I was just sort of like, right, now we're cooking. Now things are ratcheting up. They're getting weirder, but things are ratcheting up. And then everything just sort of stood still and then took massive steps back as we got these sort of epic backstories from their perspective. And I enjoyed the stories, but it just, narratively, as a book, it didn't work for me. This novel also has those weird Murakami sex things that put off quite a lot of readers, and actually in novels like Norwegian Wood and 1Q84, I really couldn't stand. I think actually it's mainly 1Q84. With 1Q84 it felt gratuitous. With 1Q84 it was every scene the character was in, she was talking about her breasts, and I saw no point for it whatsoever. It made no sense to me whatsoever, and it really annoyed me. Whereas Kafka on the Shore, it still has those weird things. Go check out my review, and I go into detail in that about that. But it wasn't as gratuitous in Kafka on the Shore, and it's the same with this. It's in there, it happens, and you might go, that's a bit cringy, or you might go, I don't get why that's there, that wasn't needed. But I'm absolutely able to forgive it because it's not constant. It's not every single scene we're in, a character is talking about their body or their tits, or women are just sort of being placed there in order for the lead protagonist to have sex with. It doesn't have that feel in it. So Kafka on the Shore and this one both get thumbs up for me in that regard, in which they're nowhere near as bad as 1Q84. And finally, my last dislike is that some of the characters, we spend a lot of time with them, we get to know them, we get to really connect and engage with them, and a lot of their plot threads and their stories go unresolved, or aren't as resolved as much as I would have liked, considering I'd spent 600 pages with them. So there's that. It didn't massively annoy me. I was pretty satisfied with most of them, but there's just a few that I was like, I would have liked a little bit more there. Yeah. But that's it. But that's it for my dislikes. Just those sort of three things. Overall, yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So there you go. I thought this novel was excellent. I'm going to give it the exact same rating that I gave Kafka on the Shore. I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. If you like novels that are a little bit weird, they're a bit thinky, they can make you stop and think about life and reality and our place in the world. If you want a novel that sort of has buttery smooth, beautiful prose that you can just get lost in, that is packed full of humour, but also packed full of heart, I think this is a good option. I don't know if this is a novel I'd suggest you start Murakami with. I think it's a bit epic, a bit vast, and goes a little bit too weird. But overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. So out of the 4 Murakami books I have read, here is my current order and ranking. I will continue to do this as I keep reading his work. But at the moment, at the very bottom, in 4th place, I have 1Q84. I hated this one. It had some amazing bits in it, don't get me wrong. It had some absolutely fantastic stuff within it. Stuff I adored and I still think about now. But it had too many failings. It was way too bloated. Really weird sex stuff going on that made no sense and was just abhorrent. And I'm just like, yeah, so that's in number 4. In number 3, we have Norwegian Wood. I thought this novel was good, and I thought it captured that essence of youth and loneliness really well. In number 2, we have, I'm going to go Kafka on the Shore. For a while, in the time that I've been sort of like writing up this review and thinking about this novel, Kafka on the Shore was at the number 1 spot, because I thought it was just a little bit tighter, a little bit more succinct. However, I think this one has to go in the number 1 spot because it's the only one out of all the novels that I've read of his that I want to reread at some point in the future. It's the only one. So surely that must put it above Kafka on the Shore. So yeah, but I'm going to say Kafka on the Shore and this one, they're very close. I thought they were really weird and really surreal, but really kind of like fun characters all the way through. The pacing for the most part, except for a couple of areas, is pretty solid considering the size of them. Yeah. So, for me, this one is number 1, but Kafka on the Shore is very close behind. Have you read the Wind-Up Bird Chronicle? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below. I just wanted to let you know that I am now going to be putting a hold on the whole read what I own challenge that I'm doing at the moment. I've done all right. I've got through a fair few that I haven't actually read. There's actually about 6 books that I've read that I haven't actually even reviewed that I'm doing through my sort of backlog, and they probably won't get a review because they were just sort of like thrillers and things like that that are just sort of popcorny fun, and I just sort of read them because they're on the shelf. But anywho, let's talk about the Women's Prize for Fiction. The shortlist is out, and I will be reviewing every single book on the shortlist. I've racked them all up on audiobook because I've got loads of credits, so I'm going to be making my way through the Women's Prize. So reviews coming up for those very soon. As always, I hope you're well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying whatever you might be reading, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.